Hello and welcome to the Canary System Overview. My name is Don Mast. I'm a senior account manager with Canary. I've been with Canary now for over 11 years, working in the historian space across most of our industry verticals. And as we get started, one of the things I want to point out to you is I'm going to be using the webinar chat. And so you could probably see I put some information into the webinar chat just to kind of get us started. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So in the chat, before we get things kicked off, I want to make sure that you're all aware of not only our main Canary website, canarylabs.com, but also our Canary community. And that page serves as our home for Q&A forums, an interactive knowledge base, an online learning platform, and it allows our users to provide feedback and make product feature requests. And so almost everything that I'm going to discuss today during this webinar is going to be available in the links that are in the webinar chat. And so during our discussion, I'm also going to be putting in other resources to help you to find the information you need to make the most of our time together. And so Canary was founded in 1985. And this year we are celebrating our 40th anniversary, and we're having a user conference coming up this summer, and you're probably going to get more information about that as it gets closer. Registrations are open now for that. But Canary, again, was founded in 1985. We are owned and operated by our original founders and their families, and with no outside investment or controlling interest. We are based in central Pennsylvania. And we understand the industry or the engineers crave easy-to-use tools that enable data-driven decision-making. And we provide the historian and visualization software for manufacturing, industrial automation, smart factory, industry 4.0, data management, helping you and your leaders to make better decisions. And so just one of the things I wanted to point out in the links that I had shared with you over in the webinar chat is our partners. And so if you have any interest in either becoming a partner or are looking for a Canary partner or a distributor, we have over 120 plus brilliant people that we've trained, and they are resources that are available for you. They help you to have seamless adoption of Canary, and that's canarylabs.com/partners. And so our Canary system has been deployed at over 21,000 plus sites in over 74 plus countries, and we're in over 21 or more industry verticals around the globe. And so just to talk a little bit about to provide a little bit of an example or a few examples of our enterprise applications, a few that I wanted to point out here. First of all, the United States Navy. We're monitoring nuclear propulsion on all of the nuclear subs and aircraft carriers. There's over 200 vessels that Canary is currently part of. And also Era Energy. I wanted to point those folks out to you as they were a full OSI soft system replacement. They're looking at between 2.1 to 2.4 million tags. And one of the interesting things here is that they had over 100,000 calculations. And so let's go ahead and dive into the Canary system and learn more. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drop into the chat while we talk here some information about our collectors and our historian, just to kind of provide those resources as we talk through this process. And so our Canary's data collectors, your organization likely has many different devices, PLCs and systems that are all producing data. And you will be able to capture and store all this process data using Canary's data collectors. They're designed to allow for easily moving data into and out of the Canary system. We are agnostic for hardware, SCADA, DCS. We embrace open standards. And also, gRPC is available as well as exposed as a web service. And so there's a variety of ways to collect and store your data in the Canary system. And quickly, I will share with you that we do have some minimum hardware specs, and I'm going to drop those in the chat for you also. That way you have those resources. But since every Canary system could be licensed to potentially scale well beyond 2 million tags and handle a variety of data speeds, system requirements can and usually will vary. And so factors like scan class, data change rate, data type, client activity, and additional variables can affect system resources. And so this is just a recommendation of a typical enterprise solution consisting of multiple sites, each logging data via OPC. And I will point out that Server 2019 and Windows 10 are the oldest operating systems that are compatible with our newest version 24. And also, in our version release later this year, you could also use Linux. We're going to have two flavors of Canary, either Windows or Linux-based. And so you also have, and I do want to point this out, we have completed our SOC 2 Type 1 compliance successfully. And that report is available upon request. And so the Canary system is made up of 7 different applications or modules. Starting off with the left, we collect, store, and contextualize data to enable data-driven decisions. The views, calculations, and events modules is where we add context to the data, build asset models, events, and calculations to transform the data into information that can be used. We leverage our client tools like Axiom and our Xaladdin, along with our data feed application, to put actionable information in the hands of the men and women so that they can start to make informed decisions. And our data feeds make it easy to get data out of the Canary system and into other types of software. And that's where our Canary connectors will help. And so I did put a link over into the webinar chat highlighting our architectures. And our architecture is very, very flexible. And so a typical architecture would look something like this with your PLCs or devices out in the field. You probably already have an OPC server or MQTT broker that your devices are speaking to. And we would install the collector software on the OPC server. And then build out the Canary Historian server with the rest of the software, which the client tools would connect to. And now it's important to note that the historian does not impact the PLCs or the devices. It can't write records back through an OPC server or MQTT broker to those devices. The client tools have no way to impact the OPC server because that access stops at the historian. Now let's talk a little bit about our store and forward technology. Never worry about losing your data again with Canary's Store and Forward. By installing the Canary Collector local to the data source, you can leverage our Store and Forward technology. It provides buffering of data. It provides HA at both the data collector and the historian levels. You can send data to multiple site-level historians or a site-level historian and corporate-level historian at the same exact time. And now you could send data to a local historian and a corporate historian without adding complexity. And so here's a question. Are you challenged by DMZ or bidirectional restrictions? With Canary Store and Forward, you can also use a proxy server, ensuring data travels in a single direction. And I will point out that our Canary Store and Forward service is responsible for both sending and receiving data from one Canary server to the next. As such, it is responsible for buffering data in the event that it cannot connect to the Store and Forward service on the receiving end. And buffering data is cached to disk until that connection has been reestablished, allowing data to flow again. If this connection is initiated from the sender side, and the Store and Forward on the receiving side listens on the gRPC endpoint 55291 for any inbound connections. And data in transit, of course, is encrypted using TLS. Something new in version 24 is our identity service. Our identity service is used for three main purposes: for authenticating users that connect using Canary's client tools, authorizing other Canary services, and also managing API tokens. The identity service operates as an OAuth 2.0 OpenID Connect, or OIDC, server for Canary client tools. And that would be the Canary's admin, Axiom, the XL add-in. And upon connecting, a browser window will appear prompting the user to log in via HTTPS. And now by default, the identity service is configured to utilize Windows AD, as that was the primary method of authenticating before version 24. However, with this new integration of OIDC, the identity service now supports many, many other identity providers, in addition to Windows AD, such as Azure, Entra ID, Microsoft AD Federation, Okta or Auth0, Google, Kerberos, or customer-defined OAuth providers, or also there's an anonymous option that is available. And so let's talk a little bit about the Canary Historian. Okay, this is our cornerstone, right? The Canary Historian is a NoSQL time series database. The database is purpose-built for time series process data. The Canary Historian has been optimized for performance. And best of all, this is extremely important, no database administration or SQL skills are required to maintain the Historian. And now, the Historian is highly scalable, so whether you're scaling hundreds of tags or 2 million plus tags, no problem. It's also easy to move archive files between Canary servers, enabling simple backup and also disaster recovery. And data is stored with lossless compression and is encrypted. A single server, once again, can store over 2 million tags. And that same technology is used for all applications, whether edge, site, enterprise, or cloud. And so once all the data is written into the Historian, it's important to start thinking about, okay, well, how do we keep a small footprint on your system? Canary has developed a unique lossless compression algorithm. So no matter how large your system gets, the performance remains constant and does not degrade over time. It provides for unchanging performance as you grow. And so you can quickly achieve well over 1.5 million writes per second, and you can have 2.6 to 2.8 million reads per second out of the Historian. We also have 3 times the data compression. And because it's lossless, we're never interpolating data. We're never dropping data values. The unique raw values are being stored every time. And so the next step here that I'd like to talk about here with you is our Canary views. And so I'm going to drop some information into the chat right now about our views, our as well as our asset model build outs. And so let's go ahead and learn a little bit more about what the views are all about. So the views application, or the Canary Views service, is available for both Canary applications and third-party applications to interact with the data stored in a single or multiple Canary Historian archive. The Canary Views service is primarily used to read data from the Historian. The functionality of a single endpoint is to serve client requests for data stored within the Canary system. It consolidates all the data streams and simplifies system administration. So as you can see from this architecture slide, the views connects the Canary Historian to the Calcs and Events server, the Axiom core, the publisher, the ODBC server, the XL add-in, as well as a public-facing web API. This concept of asset models not only gives you better organization, but it also gives your team the ability to make specific comparisons based on asset type. And so if you're familiar with OSI Pi and their asset framework, it's going to be very, very similar. Actually, a bit more robust and comprehensive. The View service allows the system administrator to add context to the Canary Historian archive. It allows you to reshape and alias historized tag formats without changing the tag in the archive. It also allows for the creation of asset model buildouts with parent-child relationships. And historian tags can be associated to multiple asset models and do not require additional tag licenses. And to create roles within the virtual views, we use regular expressions, or as we say in the industry, regex. And it's a sequence of special characters that define a search pattern. And this powerful tool allows you to use existing logic in your tag naming or metadata to make changes in mass. It's similar to a find and replace in a word processing document. You use regex to identify groups of tag names and apply universal changes. If regular expressions are new to you, don't worry. It's just a little bit of work, and it's easy to master the tool. And one of our engineers can work with you to set up your first asset model. The calculations and events engine is powerful. Each Canary system includes the calculation engine, and you could use it with your existing Canary Historian tags to create new calculated tags that are then stored in the Canary Historian. You could deploy a single calculation to all instances of an asset type. It runs in real time while also backfilling. And also, with our calculation server, you can combine multiple tag values to create averages. You could do roll-ups into weekly accumulations. You could also create new tags based on relationships to other tag values. And now I will say that we do offer more than 70 functions available in our calculations engine. And our calcs use open standards like NCalc and OPC functionality. And every Canary system installed includes our Canary events monitoring. Using events, you can closely monitor asset health, all while automating your workflow. If you spend hours of your days poring over figures and trend charts, you'll love this feature. Start by defining your asset using virtual views, and then leverage Canary's calculation server to create calculated tags to function as health indicators for your assets. Once established, simply create events or event roles based on the calculated tag. Then anytime an asset violates the role created in your event, it is documented and you could be notified. And I will tell you, you're going to see in the live demo all of this stuff working in unison. And so our next step here is to dive into, before the live demo, to share our Axiom and as well as our Excel add-in tools and our connectors. And so I'm going to throw that information in along with our ignition module information as we're going to talk about that too. So over in the chat, you'll find those additional resources. And so let's go ahead and talk about maximizing your operations. So we're going to talk about our client-facing tools now. And so the one thing I want to point out to you, if you've been to our website, if you've looked at our pricing, you need to remember that our client tools and our connectors that you use to pull data out of the Canary system are also unlicensed. So our collectors in the front end are unlicensed, our client tools are unlicensed and available for unlimited use. Whereas our competition out there in the market, they require additional named user license purchases. All Canary systems include unlimited clients. And so the first tool I want to talk about is our Axiom visualization tool. It is our trending, our dashboarding, and our automated reporting. And you can even do manual data entry on the fly right from an iPhone or a smart device. It's built in HTML5, works on any modern web browser, and it has full touch support. It's designed for self-serve automated reporting. You could save the URL up in the browser favorites and click to see your data. When you look at the Axiom, it changes the traditional model of a client asking the SCADA team to produce a trend chart. It makes it easy for the user, the end user, to produce their own trend charts and applications. So in the Axiom trend charts, you could perform ad hoc calculations using multiple trends, which you'll see during the live demo, run statistical analysis of historical data. You could also compare tags from Canary events. One of the favorite features that a lot of our customers like is exporting data to CSV. You could also do time shifting of tags for seasonal comparison. You could create time buckets of aggregated data. And again, you're going to see all this momentarily here in the live demo. There's also C# scripting that allows for creation of custom functionality. And again, we use TLS and encryption for all of the security around Axiom. And so Axiom can be used to build out applications that are less about trend lines and more about looking at data tables or KPIs. And so we went and pulled some of the displays, some of the applications from some of our customers. Here you could see you could quickly bring in a widget that provides a URL for a weather map. You could also bring in small widgets that have our gauges, and you could also bring in donut gauges. You could bring in data tables as well as our trend graphs. And you're going to see Steve here is going to momentarily show you how to build these out quickly and easily. Here, one of our oil and gas customers, Murphy Oil, provided a few examples using our symbol graphics library to create an HMI-like screen. And here you can see another example of that. And then also, they then took that and they created another screen that provides multiple sites on one page quickly and easily. And so again, it's easy to incorporate trend charts and tables of data. And using our symbol graphics library, it's easy to really be as comprehensive, as artistic of a designer as you need to be. And let's talk about that for a minute, because one of my customers, Richard Horta, from the city of Lake City, he incorporated his entire operation. He took a deep dive into the city of Lake City's operations so his team could quickly and easily go into different reports as well as see what is happening in real time using Axiom. And so as you can see here, he did put all of his lift station generators in here so he can monitor hours. He can go month by month. He can look at the yearly totals. And then he could also click up in the right-hand corner there to our Excel add-in, and that leads us right into the Excel add-in. Again, this is an unlimited use client. And when we look at the Excel add-in client tool, it allows you to easily query raw data for set periods of time or aggregated data into time buckets for easily analysis of any sample. You can create ad hoc event analysis by applying condition-based rules to raw data from ranges of time. And so when you look at the Excel add-in, it is extremely robust. There are a lot of aggregates, over 40 plus aggregates you can apply as well. But you could pull all that raw and processed data right out of the Historian, right into Excel quickly and easily. And so I did put a link into the chat here for our Canary connectors. Our Canary connectors are key when wanting to pull data out of the Historian. So whether you want to use MQTT Sparkplug or maybe JSON over WebSockets or our gRPC and Web API, our ODBC, Canary makes it easy to publish your data to third-party applications. You can use these tools to connect your Canary database to other industry standard tools, including AWS, or information platforms like Flow Software, or SCADA systems like Ignition, Esri, or reporting tools like Spotfire, or advanced analytic tools like Seek, or EAM tools like IBM Maximo, Power BI, and more. And I did put a link into the chat that is focused on our Ignition module. If you are using Ignition for your SCADA system, we seamlessly integrate free of charge into their system. And the latest tested and supported version of Ignition is 8.1.43. And I will point out that the Ignition module by Canary and Inductive Automation can be used to both write data from Ignition 8 projects to the Canary system, as well as read historic and last known values from the Canary system and publish them to Ignition 8 projects. And so before we get into the live demo here, I just wanted to point out that the Canary system provides the critical data aggregation, cleansing, and standardization layer to make data more easily consumed by other applications. The real-time data infrastructure layer provides the foundation for an organization to create, manage, use, and secure its data. One of the most critical rules is to ensure that the right data can get to the right users or systems at the right time to help you to make data-driven decisions. So as you can see in this diagram, Applications like Seek or new initiatives like Asset Reliability, ERP, CBMs, or LIMS just snap on top of the site or enterprise-wide data-rich infrastructure. And so everything that we talked about today in this opening presentation before we jump into the live demo is included out of the box to install. And I'm going to include some pricing here for you because that's really our next step. So there's two questions you need to ask yourself. First of all, the licensing model. At Canary, you can always get a perpetual license. You don't need to be pushed into a subscription. You can go perpetual if that's what you'd like to do, and we're never going to take that off the table. But we do offer a subscription-based model as well as we offer a cloud model. But we only charge for tags. We do not charge for clients. And again, you can click on the link in our chat to learn more. We also offer fantastic customer support. And again, we do offer perpetual and subscription options available. And we also have an enterprise license agreement that is available upon further discussion as well. And so we do offer a couple of things. First of all, getting started with Canary is easy. We offer a free 60-day trial license. And once you've tested the Canary system, you can rest assured knowing that it is priced at a fraction of the cost of other systems. And finally, when it comes to training and deployment of the system, Canary offers incredible support and fantastic training for you and your team. You could feel comfortable training your team and deploying the system with success. We want you to be confident in knowing you're getting the most of your Canary system. And so now we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Steve Mason, who's going to walk you through the live demo of the Canary system. Take it away, Steve.
Thanks, Don. Before I dive into the live demo, I just want to make everyone aware of a resource that's available. If you go to our website, canarylabs.com, and click on the Help Center tab at the top, that'll take you to our community page, helpcenter.canarylabs.com. And on here, we host our knowledge base. There's some on-demand learning, and we even post our release notes here. You can even open a support ticket if you want. There's a lot of information that you can find, some documentation that resides here. So if you want to learn more about Axiom, you could go into the knowledge base, select which version you're using, and then scroll down to Axiom. And then if I want to learn more about the applications, which is like the dashboarding side of Axiom, maybe a specific control, there's individual knowledge base articles for each control. So I just want to make everyone aware of that. You can refer back to later. All right, so let's dive into Axiom. And to do that, I'm going to connect to the server where the Axiom core resides, where it is installed, which is typically where the historian resides. So for me, that is S. Mason's, the name of that machine. And so when we first connect, we're presented with a login screen. And so depending on which identity providers are configured within the identity service of Canary, that's going to dictate what is available on this login screen. And so I'm just going to use Windows Active Directory and type in the username and password. Okay, so when we first open it up, we're presented just with this browse tree. So we have 3 folders which you can save to and read from. So the first is the public folder. Anyone can save to the public folder, and it's available to anybody. And then there's read only, so only if your user account has permissions to save to it, you can save your applications there. Otherwise, you can just open applications and charts. And then every user would have their own private folder. Okay? So we're just going to start by creating a new chart. So we're going to come down here. And we're going to open up a chart, and then we'll look at applications later. Add some trends. All right, so on the left is our tag hierarchy, browse structure. So S. Mason, that is the name of my historian machine. So out of the box, every system has a default historian view. So you'd have at least one view. Now these other 4 are virtual views that are built on top of the historian view. So I'm just going to pull tags from here, and if I expand this, these would actually be my data sets that are within the historian. So we're just going to add some diagnostic tags over here, and we're going to choose these. Okay. All right. So when we first open up a chart, we're giving you an hour window from the historical edge to the live edge. And if I want to change that window, I open up the time span picker just by clicking on that time interval. So maybe I want to look at 10 days. Okay, so there's a 10-day interval, and I can scroll back and forth through time using the arrow keys here on the screen, or I could use the arrow keys on the keyboard. I can also jump to a specific moment in time using the date time picker here or on the live edge. So maybe I want to go to January 17th at 10:30. Okay, so there is my new window. Now this is live edge right here. So I don't have data yet up to the 27th. And if I want to put it back into live mode, hit the play button. All right. So maybe I want to look at 1 day now. And any change that you make on the time bar can be, you can undo using the back arrow here. Then below we have the legend, so displaying the tag name and the most current value. If I right click on that, that gives me some other attributes that I can add to the legend. So maybe I want to do source tag and what aggregate kind that we're using. And maybe I want to just change the display type to a grid. Okay. And if I just want to collapse it, I'm just going to click on the legend itself and I can collapse the legend. All right. And now if I move over to the scale, so by default, we give everything auto band, auto scale, so that it fits nicely onto the chart. But if I want to, I can come over, and first thing I can do is I can link two bands together. So if I click on the scale and then click the link button with another scale, now these two trends are sharing the same band. And if I want to undo that, just again, click again and hit the unlink button. So that's just how you would link two scales together, and then I can also click and drag. I can start moving trends around, and I can expand and contract those scales. When I get to the edge, you can see the cursor changes, so I can start moving those and really customizing what I want my chart to look like. And as soon as I start doing that, as soon as I start moving the scales around, I have this auto band button that will appear. This will put everything back to how it was, giving everything equal space. All right, so that's all left click functionality. If I right click on a scale, I can actually change those values. So maybe if I want to change the max value to 100. All right, now I've got 100 for my max scale. And if I want to put it back on auto, again, I'm just going to right click and select auto. Next, we'll look at the different modes. So right now, it's just cursor mode. It's just displaying what that value is as I scroll across the screen. Maybe I want to do a delta. So that's a click and drag. So it is the finish, the end value minus the starting value. So I could go from left to right, or I could do right to left. And again, it's wherever the cursor ends minus where it started. So we can do quick deltas that way. And using the same functionality, doing click and drag, I can zoom into a particular section. So maybe I want to zoom in on this area. I keep doing that. So now we're looking at 59 minutes, 24 seconds. And so maybe something happened here. The last mode to look at is annotation. So I can add annotations to my chart. So now this annotation is actually saved to the tag itself within the historian. It's not saved, or it's not saved to the chart itself. If I were to open up another chart and add this tag, this annotation would still appear there. So this is actually stored in the historian. So I'm going to delete that. Okay, so that's the annotation mode. Now let's go back to, let's do 12 hours. And put it in live mode. All right. If I want to add more trends, I can have the Add Trends menu. Again, it'll bring up this window to add more. Then I want to focus on the Edit Trends menu. So if I click that, I have all my tags here on the left, and here's another location, I can add more tags. I can even create calculated tags. So let's do that. Maybe I want to do CPU usage of historian as a percentage of the total. So we'll do historian divided by the total. Let's call it CPU percent. There's also other functions here that are available, and then just some operators and numbers. But we'll just keep it simple. One tag divided by another. So you can see that purple trend appeared down here at the bottom. If I want to, I can use these little handles. I can click and drag those to rearrange the order of the tags as they appear on the chart. Okay. And the next thing I want to illustrate, there are two modes for drawing the trend, right? By default, we're using the trend option. If I select one of these, it's using the trend option. But I want to demonstrate the state mode. So I'm actually going to add another tag. And I'm going to add it from here. So a different data set. This is a status tag. Okay. So you can see the new green trend at the bottom. So I'm going to switch this to state. Now I know this tag is only writing ones or zeros, and so this is really useful for a tag like that, or if it's a Boolean tag or a string. So this would be useful in those scenarios. So I know it's going to be a 1 or a 0. So if it's a value of 1, I can even transform it and say, oh, that means it's on, and we're going to change it to green. So I can see that happening here in the background. And then if it's a 0, that means it's off. We'll change it red. And then I can get rid of this line if I want. So that line thickness property, I can set that to 0. There we go. Okay. So now as I scroll across that, you can actually see the description. It's transforming it, saying on or off, not ones or zeros. So that's the state mode drawing type. Okay? Now, all right, so we're in the Edit Trends menu. So another way to get back to that screen, obviously I can click on the button up here, or I can just right-click anywhere in the chart area, and that will also open up this window. So maybe I'm going to look at this tag and look at its properties so I can change the display name, its color, line thickness. I can time shift a trend. So maybe I want to compare today's values with yesterday's. So I'm actually going to add this tag again. Go back to our diagnostic system. So there's CPU usage historian. All right. Just put a little 1 after here to indicate that there is another tag of the same name. And Let's first rename it. So let's say yesterday. And let's change its color. Okay. And then we're going to time shift it by 1 day. All right. And maybe it makes sense to, if I really want to compare the two, I'm going to link them together. So again, I'm going to click on the scale, click the link button. And so there, very easily, I can compare the two from today's values to yesterday's values. So it's a time shift. All right. I'm going to go back in there. So again, I'm just going to right click. And actually, if I right click on a trend itself, you'll already have that tag selected when I open up that screen. By default, integer and float values use a time average to aggregate. Boolean and string data types would use a start bound aggregate. So maybe I want to look at max values. So if I click on the aggregate, there's over 40 different aggregates to choose from. So maybe I want to look at maximum values, and then I can provide an aggregate interval. So maybe I want to look at our max. So I'm looking at a 12-hour window. So I'm going to choose an 1 hour aggregate. So I should see 12 steps on my screen. So those are 1 hour max values. All right. Again, right click, we'll go back in there, and let's select one of these again. Let's choose this tag. You can display float labels if you want. So you can see that float label appear up here on the top left. And you can drag that around, place that anywhere you want on the chart. And you can turn scales on and off, so left and right scales. And then I want to illustrate the limits that can be applied within a chart. So I can do a fixed limit, or I could do a variable limit based upon another tag that is within the chart. So maybe for this scenario, I want to see a high limit of any time the yesterday exceeded today's value. So instead of using a fixed high limit, I'm going to choose the variable, and then I'm going to use the CPU usage historian tag, which is already selected. And so if it exceeds that tag, I'm going to change its color. And let's choose yellow, so I can see that yellow appear over here. And we'll copy that. And I also want to fill in the area. I'll use the same color. All right? So I can do with high limits, I can do with low limits. That's a great way that you can just very easily see where something is exceeding a boundary that really pops off the screen. Okay. Now if I want, I can actually export this data to a CSV file. So if I go up to my menu, select export data. Choose which tags you want. So maybe I just want to do these three. All right, we would give it a name. And then it's going to default to whatever the start and end time is on the chart. If you want, you can change those by clicking on it. It brings up the date time picker. And then, you can choose aggregate interval. So this would give me 12-hour. It's a 12-hour window, so that's why the row count is 12 of 1 hour aggregate intervals based upon whatever aggregate these tags are using. So this one is using max. The other ones are using time average too. If I just want to do raw data, I would just set this to 0. But maybe we want to do 5-minute aggregates. Export. And then we've created a CSV file. So that's a quick way to export data from Axiom. All right, and so now let's assume this is the chart that we want. We've got it set up the way that we want it to, and we're going to save it. So click Save As. And again, I can save it in the public folder. I can save it in my private folder. The read-only option isn't here because my user account doesn't have permissions to save to that folder. So I'm just going to save it in the Canary, my private folder, Canary Admin. And we'll call it Axiom Chart. All right. So that's a quick overview of charts. And next, we're going to go to the application or the dashboarding side of Axiom. So go up to our menu and select New Application. All right, so here's our application. We've got controls on the left that are drag and drop that we can put onto the screen. And then if we have a control selected, or if I have the screen selected, the properties of that control are listed down here on the bottom left that we can edit. Before I go any further, though, I want to bring up my Canary Admin, and I want to open up my Views tile. And so when we were creating the application, or I'm sorry, when we were creating the chart, we were looking at the diagnostic tags from the local historian view. For the application, I'm going to focus on this water district virtual view. The main reason for that is because within this view, we actually have defined assets. That's one of the benefits of creating a virtual view, is you can define what those assets are. So we can see down here in the bottom left, we've got 1 company, 4 districts, 47 pumps, and so on. And I can actually drill in there. We can see that hierarchy. So here's the company level, and then you got the district level, pumping stations, and then each pumping station has any number of pumps and towers. And when I actually drill into one of those, then we finally get down to the tag level. So this is the view I'm going to use to demo the application side of Axiom, because there's a huge advantage whenever you have these assets defined. Axiom can take advantage of that, and we'll see that in the demonstration. But just so you know, it's not required to have a virtual view. You can just use the local historian view, but you can't have any defined assets within a local historian view. It's just like the raw data. All right, so let's go back to the application. And so the first thing I'm going to do is actually set the screen to an asset type. And I can do that here. It says asset instance, that little cube icon, or I can do it down here. These are little quick links to get to the same location. So I'm going to choose my water district view. And then I'm going to set the screen to the district asset type. And then we'll just pick one to start with. All right. And so that gives me this little asset icon up here. This would allow me to switch in between those districts. That's the modal type. I'm going to choose inline. It's going to give me a list instead on the side that I can click to switch between. And let's set that to 200 pixels instead. All right. Now I can start dragging some controls out here. So I'm going to start with the bar chart. And let's use this district tag. And then we'll stretch it across. Okay, so currently it's looking at 15-minute average intervals over 1 hour. Let's do 1 day averages. So I can just do 1D for 1 day. And then let's do it over an entire month. So I can do MO for month, or I can just type out month. All right, so those are the 1 day averages for that tag for this district. And it's looking at now minus 1 month. If I want to go to the beginning of the month, I can change my time start, and I'm just going to say month. Start there at the beginning. So it normalizes to the beginning of the month. And then if I want to, I could add or subtract days or hours. So I could do plus 7 days if I wanted to. But let's just start at the beginning of the month. Okay. So there's my bar chart. And then the next control I want to throw out there is an asset template. Again, the asset template would really only be available if you're using a virtual view that has assets defined. And so since I set my screen to the district asset type, these are all the available child assets of the district. So immediately it only gives me to choose from. It gives me these ones to choose from. So I'm going to choose pump. All right, and so the asset template finds all of the pump assets of the district. And so for Como, there are 6. And each of these is its own little panel. And so if I want, maybe I just want to make this thing bigger here. Stretch out across, and then I can expand those a little bit. Adjust my label. So whatever I do to one panel, it'll propagate across all the others. And so maybe the next thing we'll do is throw a donut gauge in, and we'll set that to flow tag. So these are all the tags that are available for a pump asset. Okay, make it bigger, and maybe we'll label it as such. So drag a label out called flow. And let's center the label and maybe make it a little bit bigger. All right. Now I can tell that the max is not large enough to accommodate for the data, so let's change the scale max. Let's set it to 15,000. Okay, that's better. And if I want, I can even set some limits on it. So maybe if it's greater than 10,000, so I could do a hard-coded number, or I could base a limit on another tag of the pump asset. But let's just do 10,000. So if it's greater than that, we want it to be red. And then we'll set another one, same thing, 10,000, but if it's less than or equal to, it will just be green. All right. So right now I don't have any that would be in the red, but if I actually just want to change the color of the control itself, so if I select the donut gauge, so I'm going to uncheck this limit range visible. And so if it falls into that range, it'll actually turn red. And maybe let's put it in the live mode here. So I'm at Como. If I switch to Guadalupe, do we have any in the 10,000? Not there. Let's try Travis. Okay, there's one right there. So you can see how it actually changes the color of the donut gauge. So that's what those limits can do. And then how you're getting a demonstration of the assets, in motion here. I'm switching between districts, and automatically finds the children of that asset type and updates those in my asset template. So let's go put it back in edit mode, and let's throw a spark chart on there. And we'll just look at the flow again. So we're just looking at a little trend here with the flow. And maybe we want to turn the scale on. Okay. And then let's put a symbol in. So we got a symbol library. We'll choose this one. So maybe this indicates something. If I want to link this to a tag, that's the source property. So I can select this trend icon here, or again, you got some quick links down here. I can also do it down here. And so maybe I'm going to link it to this state tag. All right, and now I want to put a limit on that so that I know this, again, this tag either equals 1 or 0. So if it's 1, if it's equal to 1, it's that green color. If it's equal to 0, that indicates something else. Okay. All right, so that's an asset template. And again, whatever I do to one, it propagates across all the others, so you can really build something out pretty quickly using something like an asset template. All right, now I'm going to throw a grid on here. Place it over here. And again, the grid is another control that can be set to an asset type. So I'm going to select my asset type button, and we're going to choose tower for this one. And immediately it finds all the towers of this district. And we're going to do 4 columns. And I'm going to throw some value boxes in there. So choose tag. Let's use level. And then we're going to do another level tag. All right, so this first one, this is just the current value. Maybe I want to know what was the beginning value of the level tag at the beginning of the day. So I'm going to change that aggregate type. So let's say we're going to do a start bound aggregate instead. And the aggregate interval, we're going to do a 1-day interval. And we want it to start at the beginning of the day. So I'm just going to use D to normalize to the beginning of the current day. Now, this may not have values at the beginning of the day. We have to switch to a different asset type. Let's do that first. Make sure we've got good data coming in here. Okay, there we go. So we've got the current value, and then we've got the value at the beginning of the day. And then let's throw another one in there in the last column. So I can link a control to a tag, or I can build a calculation off it. So let's build a calculation for this one. And maybe we just want to do the difference between the beginning of the day and what the current value is now. So I can just select it. It already has some focus. So I've got value box 1 minus value box 2. All right. And then let's put some headers on here so we know what we're looking at. So I'm going to edit the headers. We got tower. We've got current level. We'll call this beginning of day level. And then this is the difference. All right, so you can build calculations out and link controls to a calculation instead of a raw tag. Within the grid itself, you can actually do vertical calculations. So we can do a column calculation. Maybe I want to do the average of each column. And then let's adjust the alignment here. So we'll do right for these. Okay. There again, when I go and switch between districts, assuming it has data for it, it will populate for those child assets. And I can even put in a filter. So maybe I want to maybe I want to sort by the flow tag. So I can say sort by, and then put your tag name in square brackets, sort by flow. And then this is ascending. Maybe I want to go a descending order. So I can do that. So I can do a filter like that. I can also, it's over the tower, let's do, maybe I'm only interested if the level is less than or equal to 20. Because maybe there's something problematic if that's occurring. So you're really only concerned with those problematic asset types. All right, so you can see how quickly we've built something out using those asset properties. And then let's label this screen. Let's call this as like an overview. We'll rename it. And then maybe we want to build another screen within our application. And again, I'm going to set my screen to an asset type. And so I'm going to pick my view. Now I'm going to set my screen to a tower. Pick one to start with. All right, and the first thing I'm going to do is drop an asset label on here so I know which tower I'm looking at. And maybe we'll make that larger. And then let's throw a trend graph on here. Okay. So I can add trends. I can import a chart, so I could actually import that chart that we made earlier if I wanted to, but it doesn't really apply to what we're making here. So I'm going to actually add trends. And again, it already knows which tower I'm at. I'm just going to add all 3 of those tower tags. All right, there they are. And then maybe I want to drop in a scatter plot down here. And we'll compare level to temp on our X and Y. So we'll say this is level versus temp. Just that. Again, we're looking at 15-minute intervals in 1 hour. Maybe we want to do, let's do 1 hour intervals in 1 day. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, and let's do more of that. Some more data in there. Okay, that looks better. 30 days. And then we'll throw in a data table. And again, we'll just put the same 3 tags in there. So it defaults to raw data that it's displaying, or you could do aggregated data as well. And then we'll do one more. Let's put an event table down here. So events are created within the Canary admin and the Calcs and Events service. And I already have one that's created. It actually hits towers. And then let's look at the last 30 days to see if we have any events that apply to it. There are some events. So this particular event, I was looking at if the tower's temp exceeds 80 degrees. And let's change the column. So I don't really need to know the source because the source is defined up here with my asset label, so I can take that off. I don't really need to know the type. And I do have some properties included with it, so let's add those. So this tells me when the event started and ended, the duration, and then I have a properties as what was the max temperature and what was my average level whenever that event occurred. So I've got an events table within Axiom. All right, now let's call this screen towers. And now I'm going to go back here and show you one more thing. So an asset label or a button has a navigation property. And so if I look over here, I have this navigate source so that whenever I click on the asset label, I can actually open up another application. I can open up a chart. I can go to another screen within the application, or I can go to some URL that I have defined. I'm actually going to use the screen option and choose my towers. And then when I go into live mode, if I click on this, so I'm at Travis Station 3 Tower 1. Travis Station 3 Tower 1. So it navigated me to the screen and loaded that particular asset instance. So again, that is the beauty behind having those assets defined. It knows, it has that knowledge to pass in into the other screen whenever it loads it. And you could open up another application that has the same asset defined. So again, this is all possible because this screen is set to the same asset type as this grid. All right, so if this is what we want, we're going to save it. And again, I'm just going to save it to my own private folder. We'll call this application demo. All right, so that was a quick build of an application. And the last thing I'll show you is how to build an automated report. So once you build something like this, whether it's an application or a chart, you can then build a report off of it that would get sent to your users on a daily basis or something like that. So if I go to my menu, we're going to go to automated reports. And I'm going to add a new report. So it could be weekly, monthly. It could be after an event completes that this report would get sent out, or if you want to get very specific about when a report gets sent, that would be an advanced cron job. So we're just going to stick with weekly, and maybe I want to send this out at 8 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I'm going to choose the application that I want to create the report on. By default, it's just going to load the first screen. If I want to do both screens, or I can actually include multiple applications into a single report by adding more here. I'm just going to do one, and I can actually choose if I want to. I can filter and say, oh, I only want to look at a specific asset instance that the screen is set to. You can also do that. And then provide the user email address and then a subject title if you want. So this is going to include a screenshot, a PDF of that application at 8 a.m. So it's essentially going in, loading the application, taking a screenshot of what it looks like at 8 a.m. and then sending it off through email. So that's how you would create an automated report. All right. Yeah, that's all I have for the demo. I hope it was informative for you, and thank you for your time.